Today we've got the C63 in for an inspection. So this car's going to be going up for sale soon, so it's in for an inspection. So what we're going to be doing is checking the whole car over, top to bottom, inside, outside, under the engine bay. We're going to plug the diagnostics in, see if we've got any fault codes, and then we're going to report back to the customer with a list of anything we find. Starting inside the vehicle, we're going to check all of the controls. We're going to check the windows, the seat adjustment, because they are electric on this, radio, AC controls, make sure it blows hot and cold. We're going to go through the horn, handbrake, gearbox settings, basically everything inside, make sure the seat belts work, and then we're going to move on to the engine bay. So this is a 2013 C63, it's a facelift model. It's got the M156 engine and 7229 gearbox. Being a facelift, this has got a wet clutch gearbox rather than the early cars which had a torque converter. So they are better than the early cars. They're a little bit smoother and a little bit faster when you're shifting. The engine is essentially the same from facelift to pre-facelift. They did update the head bolts because on the early cars the head bolts are known to break off and they allow coolant and oil to mix. There is a set engine number, and if the engine was produced before that, it's got the early head bolts. And then since then they updated them. Some other common issues with this engine, as they're getting a bit older now, is rocker cover leaks. Plastic rocker covers, so they leak down the sides onto the exhaust manifold, so you can get a bit of smoke, a bit of oil smoke off the exhaust manifold. You can change the gaskets, but quite often the covers are cracked, so it's worthwhile just replacing the cover and the gasket together. They're quite common for air leaks from the inlet manifold. The manifold is made from magnesium alloy, and the center plate where the throttle bodies sit can actually kind of corrode away, and you get air leaks internally in the manifold. There are aftermarket plates now you can buy to refurbish those. They're also common for injectors. The injectors fail and they stick open, which can cause catastrophic engine damage. The injector will dump fuel into the cylinder, and then when the piston tries to compress the fuel, it can, and it will potentially bend the conrod and destroy the engine, which I have seen on a couple in the past. So if you've got one of these and you haven't had the injectors replaced, it's definitely something worth thinking about. Also, the cam variators, which sit on the ends of the cams, are known for causing a rattling noise on startup. They wear inside. From Mercedes, they're one piece, and you can only replace the complete unit, but there are some aftermarket companies now that sell the plates, so we can take the variators apart and rebuild the plates. Also on these, a lot of the issues with this engine are cylinder head related. So the cams are known to wear through the buckets because the cams are made from a harder material than the bucket, and they can actually wear through the tops of the bucket and also take the edges off of the cam lobes. That's something we see more on higher mileage cars, especially if they haven't been serviced particularly well over their lifetime. So if you've got any kind of ticking or tapping noise from the top end, it's worth removing the rocker covers and inspecting the cams and the bucket. This is an M156 engine. This is actually the first engine ever produced by AMG alone. Up until that point, they'd always taken a Mercedes engine and modified it. This is the first engine that was built top to bottom by AMG. So this is M156, and then you have M159, which is in the SLS, which is essentially the same engine, just has different intake manifold and some of the different internals. So the SLS engine doesn't suffer from the top end issues that these do because they already had uprated parts in. So some of the key differences between the pre-facelift and facelift cars, most notably, is the headlights and the bumpers are different, the wing mirrors are different. Also, the interior is completely different, the way the screens are set up and the radio unit. Facelift cars have the wet clutch gearbox rather than a torque converter. As you can see, these are not the standard wheels. I would imagine they've been replaced because the original 19-inch wheels that come on these are known for buckling, and they're also quite bad for cracking. You can get 18-inch alloys, which actually ride a lot better, and they're not as bad for cracking. But yeah, I'd imagine that's why these have been replaced. Couple of common issues to check for underneath on a 204 C63. The engine oil cooler, which sits at the front. If you remove this under tray, there is a drain plug. They are known for leaking and the pipes seize into the cooler. Quite often that drain plug doesn't get drained very often because people don't know it's there, so it's worth checking that does get emptied when the engine oil is replaced. The lower sump pan, also the next sump pan up, and then the lower crankcase are known for leaking. It's usually a minor weep, but if the lower crankcase section is leaking, it is a major job to fix that. It's engine out and then fully stripped down. Other than that, underneath, very similar to a normal 204 in regards to common issues. The rear subframes do corrode. The 63s don't seem to be as bad as the normal models, but it's still something to keep an eye on. The fins on the rear diff cooler can get broken off because of where they sit. Other than that, just the usual things to check for: suspension arms, the bushes wear out, brakes, tyres. We said the wheels are common for cracking. One other common problem with all 204 models, including the C63, is the wiring to the rear lights. If you notice that the rear light unit has gone dim, then unplug the connector from inside and check the earth wire. The brown earth wire quite often burns out, and then you need to replace usually the bulb holder, the plug and the pins to rectify that. So we've done a full inspection, we've had a good look around it. It's a very clean example, to be honest, full service history as well, so nothing to note for now. If you enjoyed this video, thank you for watching. Please don't forget to like, subscribe and comment below.